Welcome to the Building Web3 podcast. I have my good friend Abdul. He is the head of DeFi at Monad. Before we get too deep into Monad, tell us a little bit about your Web3 experience. How did you get into the wonderful world of crypto and then later find yourself at Monad?
Hey, Jax. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Pleasure to be here. Happy to dive in and kind of talk about my background in crypto and blockchains in general. So prior to crypto, I actually started off my first job working in a sales role at a fast-moving consumer goods company. Did that for a little bit, and then for about 2 years, back in like 2017, 2018, I was growth hacking for a few fintech startups in the US. And while I was working with a few of them, I got exposed to the concept of blockchains and cryptos like 2016, 2017 era. And one of the startups actually ended up paying me in Bitcoin. And back then, I had no idea how to accept cryptocurrency or understood how it really worked. And I just ended up creating a custodial wallet on one of the bigger companies. I think it was like blockchain.com or something, like the most vanilla thing I could find on the internet. And I just accepted Bitcoin. And then the next question for me was, okay, how do I off ramp this and how do I take my money out? And fortunately or unfortunately, I was unable to find a good off ramp for it. And my money just kind of sat there. My Bitcoin just sat there for a bit. And then eventually I found out that there's this website called fiverr.com where you can order gigs from people which accepted Bitcoin as a form of payment. And I was like, okay, if I can't off ramp my money the normal way, then maybe I can just go on their website and like spend the money somewhere instead of just having it sit. So I went there. I ordered random gigs of things like for $5 somebody's gonna dress up real funny and record a birthday message for your friend or something. I ordered a bunch of those gigs and ended up spending a few $100s, and then just logged out, then came back in to spend again after a few months, and then I checked, and the price of the Bitcoin had gone up in the meantime, which I was not tracking. So the dollar value balance that it showed on the website was actually the same where I left it, where it was before my initial spend. And when I looked at that, I was like, wait, is this a glitch? I'm pretty sure I spent a couple $100s, and it shows the same amount that it used to be in the past. And then I kind of caught on. I was like, no, wait, maybe the underlying asset is appreciating. And this is like end of 2016. It was like a crazy run was starting. And then 2017 ended up being a pretty crazy year for crypto, probably one of the best bull cycles that I've seen so far. And obviously, a lot of really cool projects came out of that era, like Ethereum, etc. And then I was just catching on to everything that was going on in the industry. And obviously, smart contracts was something that really intrigued me. And when I started looking into the grassroots level efforts for Ethereum and why it came about, it all started making a lot of sense to me. So then I ended up becoming really interested in the space in general, just kind of following along, participated in some ICOs, made some money in 2017 and lost a lot of money in 2018, as everyone did back in the day. And then I think it was around 2019 when DeFi was starting to gain some steam, and I'd been interested in the concept, had participated in some ICOs that were DeFi adjacent back in the day, and then 2020 was the time when I was closely eyeing the DeFi sector, and kind of I was in between different opportunities I was working on, and I was like, okay, this is something that really intrigues me and something I might end up doing, but the industry is not big enough for it to warrant me leaving what I'm doing right now and kind of jump into this. But I think it was the summer of 2020, DeFi summer happened, and then the TVL first crossed $1 billion, and I was like, okay, this is $1 billion industry at this point. So it's not that crazy anymore to be working on this. So I was a happy participant in DeFi summer in 2020, and right after that, Binance launched one of the first alt L1s called Binance Smart Chain. I was one of the first early users since I was a Binance user. And then I eventually ended up joining a DeFi protocol on Binance Smart Chain that was a yield optimizer. And I joined them when the protocol had under 4 million in TVL, and then eventually we ran that up to 600 over the next 6 months. I was coming from a growth hacking background, but I'd never seen growth of this level ever in my life. And once I went through that period, I was like, okay, there's no way in hell I can ever go back to anything out of crypto. The output that you get for your work is clearly insane. And if you can get the right kind of narratives, and if you can understand what works at certain market points, then it is an industry where you can achieve a lot of meaningful things. So I ended up working with that DeFi project for about a year and a half, heading their growth efforts. Then around mid 2022, I ended up joining Sail Labs. I worked there for about a year as their ecosystem growth lead. And then around summers of 2023, so for a little over a year, I joined Monad as their business development lead. And most recently in the summers, I moved into the head of DeFi role.
And then talk to us a little bit about like why join Monad. Well, actually, before you even get into why join Monad, for people that are very uninitiated and maybe haven't lived on crypto Twitter or aren't chronically online like me, tell them, what is Monad? What are they trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so I think the overarching vision for Monad is pretty simple. So we're building a high performance EVM layer one blockchain at Monad that is 10,000 TPS with 1 second block times and single slot finality. And we're looking to relieve a lot of common bottlenecks within the EVM space. And for the uninitiated, EVM refers to the Ethereum Virtual Machine, which is not only used by Ethereum, but most of the popular L2s right now, like Arbitrum, Optimism, as well as a number of alt layer one blockchains like Avalanche, Phantom, etc. So yeah, we're bringing step change improvements in a number of areas within the EVM and looking to scale it quite a lot. And then to your question on what made me join Monad, so obviously back in the last bull cycle, we had all seen that all the activity, the smart contract activity that was happening on Ethereum was gaining a lot of steam. There were actual users for DeFi, for NFTs, for gaming, for a lot of these use cases. But usually what you saw was whenever there was a popular use case happening on Ethereum, like an NFT mint or some kind of a token launch, the gas fees would become extremely high, and the chain would get clogged, and it was really hard to get your transactions on the blockchain. And that ended up kind of highlighting the importance of scalability. In the past, people had talked about scalability a lot, but nobody kind of really realized how much of a pain point it could become. Then it did in like 2020 and like 2021 era. And then you had all these alt layer one blockchains that kind of came out on the scene that were also looking to solve these problems. However, what you really started seeing was the best scaling efforts that were coming into the blockchain space were all coming in the non-EVM space. And part of the reason for that was to scale the EVM, it's really hard because the EVM is built on architecture that was designed almost 10 years ago. And there's a lot of things that need to be re-engineered from the ground up if you want to achieve true performance. Otherwise, you end up making minor adjustments to maybe the consensus or the validator set that don't bring meaningful improvements to the overall user experience. So yeah, for Monad, we're re-engineering a lot of things and really trying to bring what you would see within the non-EVM space to the EVM space. And then to your question on what made me join Monad, so the first time I saw Monad, the introduction I got was this is like Solana, but it's EVM. And then I started looking into it, and the more I read into it, I was like, okay, wait, this makes a lot of sense. Why was nobody doing this before, or why has nobody tried to solve this problem? And when I first read through the vision and everything, I was like, this was such an obvious opportunity that this should have been solved like 2 years ago. So either this task is impossible to achieve, or the team is talking about something that they cannot do. And I was skeptical at first. I was like, okay, 10,000 TPS on the EVM is something that there's teams out there within the EVM space that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, but why have none of them been able to crack at this problem? And then eventually I ended up chatting with the founders of Monad, Keone, the CEO, James, the CTO, and asked them a lot of technical questions. I understood their background, them spending 10 years at jump trading and in their HFT background. So I really understood that this is a hard engineering problem that they're solving for, and they have the right background and resume to solve for this. So I really gained conviction based on that, and then just kind of became a no-brainer.
Yeah, for people that are unfamiliar with the term HFT, so that's high frequency trading. So it's actually, I believe, quite similar to the background of Solana's. Like they were really trying to nail a one single, like no fractured state, and then very specific to financial engineering. So I'm curious, because you have a growth background, one of the things that I think most people online know Monad for is their incredible marketing. It's very similar for people that are uninitiated. It's very similar to kind of the look, not necessarily the look, but the feel of maybe something like a Chain. Talk to us a little bit about your view from the historic growth perspective on Monad's marketing and kind of why you guys have been so successful.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think growth, marketing, a lot of these things in crypto basically boils down entirely to culture and understanding the culture of the space, the culture of people that command the most mindshare on crypto Twitter and elsewhere. One of the one of the biggest things that actually caught my attention from Monad initially as well was how good their marketing was, and I think over time we've brought on some of the best marketing minds in the space onto our team who really understand the culture, the flywheel effect, and how things work, understanding the power of memes, understanding the power of community, and how to create that flywheel where you plant the initial seed, but then you have people coming in, contributing to it, and creating something way bigger than you ever thought was possible. So I think Monad's journey over the past 2 years has been really good in the sense that the focus at Monad has always been to build people, a community of people that are genuinely interested in what we're building, and for people to be passionate about the mission of scaling the EVM beyond the limits of what it was possible before. And if you want a community of people, of real people that actually care about you and are willing to go the extra mile to talk about you and to contribute to the overall community, you need to stop caring about the numbers and focus more on qualitative experiences within the community. So, which is why the initial kind of growth hack that was used for Monad was to use a Discord that was locked, and it was something that we were like Monad was doing the exact opposite of what a lot of other chains do, where you would see them launch a Discord and then just launch some kind of a campaign where, hey, if you do like these 5 tasks, like follow our Twitter, join our Discord, and XYZ, then you will end up getting this reward. And that just attracts a lot of mercenary people, bots, and essentially it pumps your numbers, but at the cost of diluting any and all value from your community. So Monad took the exact opposite approach, where the focus was not numbers, but the focus was attracting high quality people that could eventually become ambassadors, evangelists, and people that really cared about the mission of Monad, and could help spread the word way more than what any individual team member could do on its own. So I think that flywheel effect worked out really well over time, and obviously it doesn't work overnight. Whereas maybe doing some kind of a campaign is just like throwing money at it, and it's something that works overnight. So what you see right now in terms of Monad's marketing and community building effort is really a culmination of things that the team has been delivered on over the past 2 years, and really ensuring that there's a platform where people that are contributing value get recognized and they're elevated, and you create the system where the community kind of becomes self-fulfilling in the sense that there's people from within the community that are community champions that are moderating and doing a lot of things, and then creating the flywheel in different areas of the world to come and bring more people to Monad, tell them about what we're building and why they should care. And one of the things that I talk about to some projects that I mentor is obviously finding a product market fit is extremely important when you're building a product. But Monad right now, for all intents and purposes, is pre-product because our testnet is not live. And what do you do for a project that does not have a product live yet? And it's something that I call the community market fit. where you want to put your vision out there in the public. You want to attract community members. You want to create an environment where people have fun. And this ensures that whatever product you're building, there's people that care about it. And most of the people start those efforts after launching their product, which in my opinion is too late. You should start that as soon as possible. And the more people you have marching behind your vision, the better your go-to-market is going to be, because you already have so many people that care about your product.
Yeah, for people that are uninitiated, and then go back to many of our episodes, marketing foundations, but it's quite a difficult problem, because you could think of each ecosystem somewhat as like a city, right? So if you're going to create a net new city, like of course there's benefits, right? And that will attract the developers, and you can have grants programs, this, that, and the other thing. But then you need to, like, if people are building skyscrapers, you're like, well, this can't be a ghost town. So you need to actually get some kind of community. Could you talk about it maybe from that perspective on like maybe some of the problems you've seen? And no need to mention other chains. Sometimes I do. But many chains might have like an airdrop, and then things become like a ghost town. It'd be like a city being like, we'll pay you to fly here. And then they fly there, they grab the money, and they just leave. So talk to us a little bit about like how you guys have enabled some of the stickiness of your community to actually like attract missionaries versus just the mercenaries.
Yeah, I think one of the ways that we've been able to do this pretty well over the past 2 years is there's a really good mechanism for filtering within the Monad community. So, for example, if you were to go to the Discord right now, you would not be able to join the main chat for a little bit until people see that you're not a bot or a mercenary, and are someone who can actively contribute value. And then we have a lot of roles within our Discord, and there's people that are working to get those roles, and the people that have that roles feel a sense of responsibility on themselves. That, hey, we're champions of the community, and we have to ensure that whoever new is coming to the community, we have to create a good time for them. And I guess the other thing would be our community is really big on memes, and everybody's seen some Monad memes at some point, and there's a lot of lore within the community, lots of inside jokes. And I think at this point we have like somewhere between 40 and 50 Mon animals. And there's lore behind each one of those Mon animals. And there's houses within the Monad community, and people are part of a certain house, and doing all these fun activities, playing video games, playing poker, and all of these community events happening on our Discord all of the time. And I think the kind of bond that you build with your community is truly special when it starts off that way, versus doing an exchange of value to start off, where somebody's just coming in and he's like, oh, I'm just farming an airdrop. Whereas the Monad community has so many IRL events happening all the time. We have like huge like Nats hangouts that happen alongside major conferences. We had one in Bangkok last month where we had over 300 community members come out from all across Asia, and just a night of good time, and people dancing, playing funny videos, and setting up stalls, and there's so many just fun activities happening, and it feels like people come to Monad events, and they come to the Monad Discord, and they're like, what, we feel a sense of belonging. Like, this is, if you take everything out, this is a fun community that I want to be a part of. And, I just enjoy, like, it's like people are hilarious. Like, they're posting the best memes, and, so many jokes. Versus if you take like the airdrop approach, and you create like a mercenary relationship with your users, then obviously it's really hard for them to stick around, because there's a human element that they're connecting with. And you can kind of see that if you go to a Discord for a lot of other chains or protocols, you might end up seeing that their Discord kind of becomes more of a tech support forum, where someone comes in, they're like, oh, my bridge transaction is not landing, or oh, I'm having a problem with this transaction or this protocol or something. So from something being that way, versus in the case of Monad, it's just people having fun, talking about what they're doing, something cool they're working on. There's so many artists in our community, so I'd say it's a whole different mindset, the way that the Monad community is built. And I think over the past year, a lot of people have realized that, oh, Monad's putting this masterclass out in public, and we should take some of the learnings from them and apply them on ourselves. And eventually, you see a lot of other chains and protocols kind of following in Monad's footsteps at this point.
Absolutely. Well, if people aren't copying you, then you're probably not doing something right at the end of the day. So, talk to us a little bit about. I think you mentioned you guys are kind of somewhat pre-product because did you say the testnet wasn't launched yet?
Yes,
So,
that's
talk to
correct.
us a little bit about like how you attract like builders. Like, what's it like being in like a pre-testnet phase, like especially trying to expand the DeFi ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, for Monad, we are pre-public testnet. Our public testnet is going to be coming out in Q1 next year, and our mainnet is also going to be launching later next year. And as of right now, we have an internal devnet that's been running since almost Q1 of this year, which is mainly for benchmarking, upgrades, and just refining the product until it is ready for public release. And in the meantime, we've done a lot of BD over the past year and a half, have some of the biggest protocols within the EVM space, as well as some really exciting native protocols that are building on Monad. And obviously, when you're doing BD for a chain that is live, it's a different scenario because you have a live testnet that builders can go and start building on. Versus in the case of Monad, we don't have a chain that's live, so a lot of what's happening on a BD call is a promise happening from the BD person that, oh, this is a product that will exist in this state in the future, and we want you to come and build for that chain in the future. But in the meantime, the benefit that we have at Monad is that Monad's 100% EVM compatible blockchain, and the benefit to that is if you were building a new VM or a new smart contract platform, there would be no reference for people to look at, like, oh, how do I write smart contracts on this, or really understand all the nuances. But the benefit of Monad is if you're a builder that wants to build on Monad, you can just go on any other EVM chain, start building on their testnet using Hardhat or Foundry, and then whenever Monad launches, you can bring over your code base, literally copy and paste it, and it'll work out of the box on Monad. So usually what I tell people is, hey, you can build on any testnet, and when you bring it over to Monad, you'll just offer like a 10 to 50x better UX for your user because the TPS is just way higher and the gas fee is going to be way lower.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So they essentially just deploy their smart contracts onto Monad the second the testnet is launched. And is that the main incentive mechanism that you guys use to attract developers, being like, hey, your user experience is just going to be so much faster, so much cheaper by building on Monad?
Yeah, so I think there's multiple levels to what attracts builders to come over to Monad. But at the fundamental level, yes, developers do care about what the underlying infrastructure looks like. And if you're an EVM developer, it's pretty much a no-brainer to build on Monad because there's very little developer overhead required to bring over your application to Monad. But then the benefits that you're getting from coming to Monad and the kind of UX that you can offer your users is way, way superior to anywhere else. And a lot of the EVM developers that we talk to, we actually catch them at a point where they're looking to transition out of the EVM because they don't find the EVM is suiting their purpose for scalability anymore, right? And when we can go and talk to them, we're like, oh, you don't have to go to like Solana or a Move VM. Monad will be offering much higher performance than any of the other EVM chains when we go live. And then they're like, oh, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, we would have to spend like a year building out a smart contracts for another ecosystem. Then we just build a product out optimistically, knowing what Monad is going to be, and we'll just launch here, and that saves us a lot of time. And eventually, as we have more and more of these conversations, it also kind of builds this domino effect where, we talk to the first 5 protocols, they're interested, then the 6th protocol could be a bigger protocol. And when we go and talk to them, they see that, oh, there's 5 other builders that are already building. And over the past year and a half, our amazing BD team has done a lot of work. And we've brought over a lot of projects that are committed to building on Monad day one, either on our testnet or mainnet. And that just kind of domino effect keeps on getting bigger and bigger. Where at this point now you have some of the biggest blue chip DeFi protocols that are committed to publicly building on Monad, like Trader Joe, Balancer, or PancakeSwap, and the effect is only getting bigger over time. And then lastly, builders are also concerned about, what kind of mind share am I going to be getting when I launch on this chain? Because in some ways you can view a blockchain as a distribution channel for your application, and you can build the best application in the world, but if nobody uses that chain or nobody cares about it, then there's very little chance that you will end up getting the attention that you deserve. So people see Monad and they see the kind of attention that Monad has while being pre-product, and they see Monad as an excellent opportunity to launch. So I'd say the market opportunity is eventually what ends up attracting a lot of people who see Monad as a chain that can help them get the users they want.
Yeah, and you're the head of DeFi. Talk to us a little bit about like what's exciting you in DeFi right now. I don't know if you saw like some of the hyper liquid news. Like what kind of innovations are you really excited about in the DeFi space?
Yeah, I think in general, there's a lot of things that are in motion in DeFi right now. So first things first, worth calling out that DeFi is kind of having its renaissance right now, and some of the biggest DeFi protocols like Aave and Uniswap, etc., they're all picking up TVL volume over time, and everybody's attention is kind of returning to DeFi. When like maybe back in the summers of this year, if you saw like the sentiment of DeFi was like all-time lows, and people were questioning the value of DeFi at all, and which is comical to me because if you look at the history of anything meaningful that's happened on blockchains, it's always been DeFi. There have been moments where narratives like NFTs or gaming have taken off, but and some of the DeFi haters might not like it when I say this, but the way I think about it, everything, if you boil everything down, it all comes down to DeFi. So even gaming is DeFi because people do play GameFi, but eventually the reason why they're playing those games is because they're speculating on in-game assets or something of the sort, which again is DeFi. And similar to like NFTs is also trading, ends up becoming DeFi. But yeah, I think as of the things that are picking up in DeFi right now, I'd say for the future, what I'm most interested in are things and use cases that are building around AI. I think we've seen the AI narrative kind of pick steam and then kind of get slow since the start of 2023 when we first had a wave of some AI projects launching on Ethereum. I don't think a lot of them ended up achieving anything meaningful. It was just a narrative because AI in general has been on everybody's news feed ever since ChatGPT took off, and people are like, oh, we need AI in crypto, and then everybody just kind of ran off with the narrative. I think we saw a lot of noise within the sector. But thankfully this year, there's a number of interesting projects that are coming out or have already gone live that are working on building AI agents and a number of other AI use cases within DeFi that I'm pretty excited about. I think it's going to unlock new use cases and new things that we had never seen before. And most recently, if you look at some of the AI agent meta that's been picking up on chains like Solana and Base, it's really interesting because there were people that were putting out like futuristic plans that would play out over the course of like 5 to 10 years. And then suddenly you have this, like solo dev sitting and he's like, you know what, I'm just going to write an AI agent that's going to do all of these things and, create this experiment and see how it runs. And, it's getting a lot of mindshare. I think there's an AI agent that's called AI XBT or something that has gained like over 60 to 70,000 followers in like a matter of weeks. And it has a lot of mindshare right now. And I think that meta is only going to keep on getting bigger and bigger. But yeah, apart from AI, I think other exciting things that are happening are the mobilization of Bitcoin as an asset within DeFi. So historically, Ethereum has been the biggest asset in DeFi because it was the native currency on the biggest smart contract blockchain in the world. But most recently, we've seen a lot of projects, namely Babylon and other projects in the Babylon ecosystem, that are mobilizing a lot of Bitcoin that is basically just sitting still and making it useful within DeFi. So I think that's going to be a really interesting use case. And then from time to time, we have different DeFi use cases that take off. For example, prediction markets became extremely hot over the past few months, especially leading up to the U.S. elections. And last summers we saw like GambleFi really take off. So I think there's kind of like flavor of the month sectors within DeFi that end up getting outsized attention at some points. But at other points, they will still continue to gain traction over time. So just keeping an eye out there for what are the narratives that are going to be picking up in the market, and talking to builders and telling them about why they should be building them on Monad.
Absolutely. Well, we always like to ask for one startup idea. Is there an area of the blockchain ecosystem or DeFi ecosystem that you're like, hey, I feel like this is underaddressed? I'll give you an example. When we talked with the Bedrock team, they talked about having a unified dashboard to better evaluate liquid restaked tokens. Is there anything you think is like, I'm surprised people haven't done this? Or is there a use case of, say, AI agents that you're like, I think this is a good opportunity?
Yeah, I think some of the most interesting use cases that will come out of AI, and an idea that I'm generally interested in as well, is right now people are building the infrastructure for you to be able to create like personalized wallets or investment strategies that are executed by AI agents. So I think I'd definitely be very keen on seeing that. And what I mean by that is, usually for any person that is participating in DeFi and participating in yield opportunities, there's a set of factors that you have in your head that, oh, this is my risk tolerance. These are the assets that I want to play with. These are the types of protocols I want to play with. And for a protocol, I'm looking for audits by XYZ companies. And whenever you go and participate in a new DeFi protocol, you usually look at its like historical data on what has the yield been in the past. Is it sustainable? What does the community look like? And a lot of different factors. So I think eventually anything mundane that we're doing within DeFi that can be automated by AI agents, which is, in my opinion, is a huge opportunity. Just to illustrate that example a little more, it could be something like, I'm looking for the best yield on my ETH, and let's assume on day one that opportunity lies on ETH mainnet, but maybe 1 month down the road, that opportunity ends up being on Arbitrum, and a month after that, it ends up being on some other chain, or even within certain chains, it fluctuates between certain protocols. So if I can create an AI agent that is personalized to me, and where I can input a number of factors, and it can go and allocate my ETH to wherever the best yield is being offered. I think that is something that we'll increasingly see being built out, and something that I'm super excited for.
Absolutely. Well, builders, hop on that opportunity for sure. And finally, where can people learn more about you and learn more about Monad?
Yeah, so the best way to learn about me, and I have a slightly unhinged shit posting version of myself on Twitter. So my Twitter is 0x_Abdul. I shit post pretty regularly over there, and there's some occasional alpha. And for Monad, the best place to learn about Monad is our website. You can go to our website, check out our docs, which explain a lot of the technical innovations happening at Monad on how we're bringing parallelization to the EVM and making a lot of innovations. And apart from that, our Twitter is the best place to stay updated on major announcements, especially as we have our biggest milestones coming up, like our public testnet. So that is where people will be able to find out first. And lastly, if you want to become a part of the fun Monad community and check out what the buzz is all about, you have to check out our Discord. That is where all the fun happens.
Absolutely. Well, go get involved with Abdul on Twitter, and definitely go get involved with the Monad community. Until the next episode, let's continue building the future of Web3.